Oh man, I love protein shakes. This isn't gonna make me bulky though, is it?
Well, that's what we're gonna discuss today. Today's episode is all about protein supplements, and why protein is even important in the first place for getting the best fitness results.
Protein!
Stick around.
What's up guys, Victor here.
And Julian.
We're here in the heart of hearts of Miami Lakes, right in front of La Vaquita in Miami Lakes. Be Fit Miami Lakes, the place to be.
Country Club, use all the hashtags.
PSN, whatever.
On that note, PSN needs to get its stuff together. PSN, do something, man.
Yeah, you have a beautiful little community here.
Yeah.
Let's make something of it.
So the idea for this podcast was sparked because one of my clients eats a relatively low protein diet, and I was explaining to her and giving her tips on why she needs to eat more protein and kind of helping her come up with a strategy. And the topic of protein shakes came up, and she was like, well, I've thought about that before, but would drinking a protein shake make me bulky?
And I said, yes, naturally.
Obviously, yeah. You get huge like me. She's like, well, I'm definitely taking it then.
Joaquin said that you had a perfect figure, I think, or something like that in the last interview, so.
Said ripped or something, huh? Perfect. Unless you cut that part out, you asshole.
Of course I'm gonna cut it out. You didn't compliment me.
Cut it out, you.
Say it. Say it.
And I think that's a fair question, and it's something that a lot of people, I'm sure, are curious about, because a lot of us associate protein shakes with like these gym bros and the Arnold Schwarzeneggers and the guys you see on Instagram with the big muscles. There's just an association there between protein supplements and like muscle and, you know, heavy weightlifting and bodybuilding and that kind of stuff. So it's fair.
Yeah, and I feel like it's something that, and correct if I'm wrong, but a lot of women have that like trauma of like, I don't want to get too bulky with exercise and with the protein shakes. So combine the two, and it's like, is it even worth it for them? Like,
for sure.
In their head, you know.
Yep, absolutely, and that's what we're here to discuss.
We're here to debunk. I'm Jamie.
Debunk.
That's the other guy.
That's my stuff. I always feel like
it's Adam.
He's good too.
He's better.
Adam is really good.
He's better. That guy's a fucking walrus, an ornery walrus.
Yeah. So the thing about the does it make me bulky question is that it's a little bit misguided, because it assumes that there's something inherent in the protein supplement itself that's going to make you bulky somehow. When in reality, the only way to get bulky or gain weight, whether it's muscle or fat, is to overeat or to eat more.
A caloric surplus.
Yes, sir.
As the kids call it.
Mm-hmm. So let's discuss some common misconceptions. Number one, we just touched on it, that there's something about the protein shake, there's something in there that's going to somehow stimulate your muscles or something to grow and make you big and bulky. And there isn't. Like I just said, there really isn't anything in there. It's literally, as the name implies, it's a protein, it's a way to supplement protein. So you can either do that by eating more protein in your diet, or you can have a protein shake or a bar or something like that and have a little bit extra. There's no difference between 25 grams of protein here and 25 grams of protein, you know, by eating a steak. Now, of course, there are differences in what the steak contains and other things like that, but when it comes to grams of protein, you can get that in many ways. So saying that a protein shake will make you bulky, that's kind of like when people say, oh, eating sugar makes you fat. That's not necessarily true. Eating too much sugar can contribute to gaining fat, but you having a little bit of sugar within the means of a regular diet, I'm not calling you out. Just saying it's not gonna miraculously make you fat. You can have sugar as part of a healthy diet. And it's the same thing with protein. As long as you stick within your total calorie intake, it's perfectly fine. And again, the only thing that's gonna make you bulky is if you eat too much.
Yeah, it's turning it into an absolute. I think that's the problem. People, like you said, they associate, if I have a shake, I'm gonna like start gaining weight. When we know that's actually maybe the opposite. It's gonna help you build muscle, and we know muscle helps you lean out in the long run. So
yeah, it's almost the opposite.
Yeah.
But again, it's just education. As soon as you figure that out, you know, you have to fight against these like long-held beliefs in the fitness industry. So
yeah, and at the end of the day, let's be honest. If you're like heading out the door and you're in a rush, it's much easier to grab a protein shake and get your good protein in, rather than like what are you gonna make that's gonna give you that amount of protein?
There's
like,
not much you can make in the morning.
Eggs?
Yeah, there's not much that you can make in the morning, and that's convenient enough for you to like grab it while you're rushing out the door.
Like 2 eggs is what, like 10 grams of protein?
Something like that, yeah, give or take.
And a scoop of this is in the 30s sometimes, 20s,
yeah,
30s?
Usually 21 to 30 grams depending on the...
Yeah, the scoop. So how are you gonna get those 30 grams in the morning after a workout? Like, we're always in a rush, everybody's in a rush, everybody's busy. How are you gonna get 30 grams of protein in your diet?
And like we're gonna discuss in a little bit, it's hard to get to the recommended daily intake for people who work out. So you do need those, that little bit of help throughout the day.
Supplement. And that's why they're called
See what he did there? This guy's a genius. And speaking of knowing your total daily numbers and macros, we do have a registered dietitian. So if you really want to get deep into what you need to be doing, how much protein you need specifically, and an action plan to get you to your goals, hit us up, comment, contact us, talk to a registered dietitian, and she'll make a personalized plan for you. That's obviously the best way to go. But for everyone else, we're going to tell you what the recommendations are.
We'll even put a little calculator here at the bottom so you guys can like put in your numbers and all that stuff, and it's going to give you a rough estimate of how much protein you should be consuming in a day.
Before we get into that, I want to talk about this whole idea of getting bulky, because it's such a concern, like you said, mostly with women. I've never had a guy tell me, oh, I don't want to get muscular, but for the most part, and we don't want to generalize in this podcast, but we've been doing this for 15 years, and the amount of women that come to, I want to weight train, but I really don't want to get muscular. And we've said it over and over, and a lot of fitness experts say it, but it's worth mentioning over and over again. It's very, very, very difficult to get muscular. It's not just gonna happen magically. It takes an insane amount of effort to do.
It's like you always say, you don't get muscular by mistake.
By
you don't
accident.
trip over a dumbbell like, oh my God, I'm huge.
Look at these huge biceps.
You're working out 6 days a week, 5 days a week. Those people that you see, like especially the women that you see, because it is harder for women to build muscle. The women that you see that are like big and strong, they're working out 5-6 times a week.
Their lives revolve around training.
And eating Tupperware, and like it's not that simple. You're gonna stumble. Sure, some people's genetics lean more towards building muscle, but you're still not gonna like grow biceps or traps.
It takes a dedicated effort to do that, and a little 3-4 times a week of training for an hour is just not gonna do it for you. Again, especially if you're not eating these 5-6 meals, having protein supplements, like having all these things you need to do to actually be able to get bigger.
Yeah.
And just to touch on the whole difference between males and females.
I'll touch you.
Males, I will do it after the podcast.
Okay.
Males have a lot more anabolic hormone naturally, so testosterone, things like that women don't have as much of. They still have, but not as much. So, and my point being that even for a man, it's hard. Even with the natural testosterone production, it's hard. I mean, it's hard for us. We know damn well, because we're what you would call hard gainers. Like, we're naturally a little bit thinner, and it's super hard for us to gain weight. You have to really train like a beast and eat a lot just to have these somewhat.
I'm just filling out a medium shirt, so that's really, really exciting for me.
Yeah.
So we hear a lot about, obviously, the big 3 macros. It's always like protein, carbs, and fat. But when you talk about exercise and lifting, everybody always just harps on protein. Why is protein the be-all, end-all? Why is it the most important one that I'm always hearing about?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you ingest protein, it gets broken down into amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks of muscle. Not just muscle, a lot of other important processes in the body. So it's an undisputed fact that when it comes to fitness or growing muscle or slimming down, protein is the most important macronutrient. It's going to help you build muscle. It's going to help you retain muscle as you're slimming down. That's another important thing here. We're not just talking about building muscle. We're talking about, can you maintain your lean mass? That's what everybody wants to do. You don't want to lose weight. You want to lose fat.
Yeah.
And if you want to get that toned, lean, ripped look, you need muscle. So you need to hold on to that muscle by eating protein and weight training, and then losing fat. That's the idea. But if you don't get enough protein, you just can't do that as easily.
I've always heard of like different types of protein. Is one better than the other? I know there's like all sorts of types.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. The main 2 categories would be animal-based and then plant-based. And when it comes to what is better for muscle building, the most research shows that whey protein, which is a milk-based protein, is superior than all the others. But that being said, you can get really good gains eating a wide variety of protein sources. The only distinction is that for vegetarian and vegan protein sources, they don't have as much essential amino acids, so you actually need to consume a little bit more. And we're gonna talk about exactly how much more in a second, but just for starters, just understand that there is a difference between animal and vegetarian and plant-based protein, and animals just have more complete protein sources. So since whey has the most research behind it, I would recommend having whey protein somewhere around your workout schedule, and then just have your regular meals with just any other protein sources that you want for the rest of your day.
No way.
You had to throw that in there.
I couldn't help it.
But although it doesn't really matter, you can have the protein shake whenever you want. We don't have to get so in the weeds here.
Really? Because my bodybuilder friends told me that I need to have it like immediately as soon as I'm done with my workout.
Yeah, so he's referring to the anabolic window, which is something that they talked about, bodybuilders talked about for decades, which basically was, so anabolic just means building, in this case muscle building, and they used to think that the closer you take it to like post-workout, the better your gains. We now know that that's been debunked by the research, so you can wait a little bit now.
You can wait.
Now, another thing that goes hand in hand with that is protein timing, right? When should you eat protein? And again, the research shows that
I eat it all in one sitting.
all at once, like a beast, just one full meal.
I go to Texas to Brazil and I'm like, give me all of it.
All the meat.
Meet me.
Just leave it on green the whole time.
Meet me halfway.
Basically, the best way to go about it is to have frequent protein feedings throughout the day. So have one in the morning, have one at lunch, have one in the afternoon, maybe a snack in between. But that is superior than, like you said, having it all in one meal. As unrealistic as that is, believe it or not, some people do that. They eat once a day.
It's so filling. I would not be able to.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to either. And again, it's just not ideal, nor is it practical. So I think for most people, they'll like, okay, yeah, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe a snack, or maybe if you're doing intermittent fasting, just whatever your window of eating is, just try to spread it evenly within that window as well.
As evenly as you can, yeah.
Exactly. So now the practical advice. All right, here we go.
Now it's time for practical
advice. Yeah. Wow, that was money.
That was good. We haven't practiced that, I swear.
So if you made it this far in the episode, kudos to you. You are our biggest fan. Everybody else sucks. And they're not going to get the best part of the episode, the recommendation. So how should we actually put all of this together?
Yeah.
You know?
So, should you be drinking a protein shake? Should I be drinking one?
Well, the boring answer is it depends. But hold on. Bear with me here. It depends on your total daily protein intake, right? So you have to know if you're eating enough protein. So once you know your daily total intake, and we're gonna talk in a second about what that should be, then that would determine whether or not you need to supplement with a little bit more protein. If you're good, if you're one of those people that you're on point, you're eating protein with every meal, you're snagging on protein, and you've reached your goals, no, you don't have to have a protein shake.
Which is rare. You have to like plan it. You have to be aware of it. You're not just gonna, by mistake, consume all your protein. Like it's very rare unless you're like a carnivore.
That would be super unlikely. Yeah. So in that event, and because of convenience, you would want to consider a shake or some sort of supplement or a protein bar or something that you can just grab and boom, you're getting your 30, 40 grams in one shot.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make 30 eggs in the morning.
It would be very difficult to get
eggs? It. I'm not gonna make that.
And most people are busy. Like we talked about in a previous podcast, like people are busy and you just, it's unrealistic to think that you're gonna get your 150 grams a day with just meals. Yeah. And also, let's face it, it's kind of expensive too. Yeah. To just eat pure protein, especially having steaks and things like that. It's not cheap. So a lot cheaper to just get yourself one of these.
Shake. Yeah.
All right. So now, how much?
Who?
So now, what?
How are you doing that?
So how much protein should you be having? That's the $1 million question.
What should I be having?
So let's start with, there's something called an RDA, which is the recommended daily allowance, I think. Fact check me on that, registered dietitian. But it's basically a joke. It's the minimum amount of protein that you need to just like kind of keep yourself alive when you're doing nothing.
That's all I need.
It means nothing for people that are working out, especially lifting weights. So that's like an extremely low number. We're not even gonna talk about it. What they used to say, bodybuilders for years would recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And by the way,
insane.
We're doing it in pounds because this is America, am I right?
I'm measuring kilograms, cheeseburgers, and bald eagles. Those are my 3 units of measurement.
Cue American flag here.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it there, don't worry.
Okay. So 1 gram per pound of body weight, that's a lot. If you weigh 180 pounds, that's 180 grams of protein. That's a lot of protein per day.
So you're weighing others?
Yeah.
Is that good? Is that bad? Is that a lot? You guys comment in the section below.
So now we know that that's a little bit exaggerated. The average person doesn't have to be eating that. Now, if you're a competitive bodybuilder, that's a different story. But odds are that the listeners here are not competitive bodybuilders.
Is that overconsumption of protein bad for the kidneys or the adult knees?
There's not a lot of research to show that, and they used to say that. You're an idiot. They used to say that. I just got that. They used to say that it was like protein may be harmful to the kidneys. We know there's no like solid evidence behind that. But again,
Not
I
that
don't
I'm
think
in any danger.
most people are just not going to be getting anywhere
I'm just
close to
saying,
that.
I'm not in any
So
danger.
you don't really have to worry about it. And again,
Yeah.
if you're lifting weights and working out a lot, then your requirements are higher. So don't worry. You're not going to by mistake have 180 grams or 200 grams,
I
something
tripped into
ridiculous.
a vat of protein and
And you're just like,
voila, voila, voila. Oh,
So here's what the recommendations currently are. You should be eating anywhere from 0.7 to 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. Let's not make this complicated. It's very easy. You take your body weight, you multiply that times 0.7.
180.
That's your number of grams that you should be eating per day. So
If that seems complicated, we'll put a little link to a calculator in our description section so you guys could just put those numbers in. Like we said earlier, if you just want to talk to us about it, comment, call us, show up.
Yep, and
MySpace
you're gonna
message me.
see that, like we said earlier, it's still a good amount. And the other thing is that these are the recommendations for somebody who's like an omnivore who eats animal and plant-based foods. If you're vegan or vegetarian, the requirements are higher. So you do need about a gram per pound of body weight. So it's a little bit closer to that like old school recommendation, but again, it's just making sure that because you're not consuming like those essential amino acids as much of them anyway, then just have a little bit more protein and then you'll be in the safe zone.
Good to know. So nowadays, a lot of my clients come up to me and they want a vegetarian or like a plant-based protein shake, and they tell me that it's because it's cleaner. Now I know that's like a buzzword that's going around. What is a cleaner protein? Is there a cleaner protein, or is that just a marketing gimmick?
So there's two answers there. One, when it comes to choosing a protein brand, that's a big rabbit hole that I explored a few years ago and got nowhere. There's really not anything conclusive because these things aren't really regulated, so you don't really know what's in it. So I always just recommend, look, let's not get that into the weeds about this. Just grab something that you enjoy the taste, right? We like Thorn because we've partnered with them, but they are not sponsoring this video. But Thorn,
Get on it.
if you're watching,
Johnny
I know
Thorne.
you're watching.
Johnny Thorne, come on, bro.
Sponsor us, bro.
That's my boy.
Come on, man.
Come on,
we
mister.
like your stuff. It's nice. It's good quality. But seriously, it should be anything that you find tasty. Now, that's one part of it. When it comes to plant-based versus animal-based, there's a whole lot of misinformation about plant-based being superior. And of course, you know how companies are. They start to use that as a marketing
Their
gimmick.
marketing.
Plant-based, as if it's somehow supposed to be healthier.
Yeah.
You're gonna tell me an Impossible Burger that has 55 ingredients, half of which you don't recognize and was made in the lab, is healthier than just beef? Having a regular burger, which is just beef.
A beef cow.
A beef,
A beef.
one ingredient.
One beef.
Beef.
Random tangent. The thing that makes me laugh about this is like, meat, but we're gonna make it look like meat.
Tastes like me,
Tastes
make
like
it look
me.
like me. A fake sausage. Is there anything more ridiculous than that? Fake cheese. Have you ever tasted fake cheese?
Hell
it's
no.
weird. It's weird. Anyway.
Got a fake sausage.
Anyway. Shout out to the there.
Oh, Vienna.
Well, that's not what you meant. So yeah, don't get caught up in the whole plant-based is healthier. Again, if I'm choosing a protein shake, I'm gonna choose whey protein because I just follow the science.
Yeah, I'm a science guy.
I'm a science
Come on.
guy. And Bill now.
Also, the plant-based ones taste like shit. The ones I've tasted.
They're not the best. They're not sending their best.
I'm a whey protein isolate guy, you know? Now, I used to hear about casein too. What's the deal with that? Is that got in the way of the dodo?
No, not at all. Casein is great. A lot of bodybuilders consume it at night, like right before they go to sleep, or they'll have like cottage cheese because it's another milk-based protein and it's a little bit of a slower digesting one. So the idea was have that before you go to sleep, and then you have like your protein is processing as you're sleeping a little bit slower. Again, that's getting in the weeds. It's another good protein. Cottage cheese is great. I actually just discovered you can put it in your eggs and your scrambled eggs. And I know it sounds disgusting, but it's not.
Fluffs them up and
Yeah, it tastes pretty
like
good.
mush.
It tastes pretty good. So, and it's super high in protein, and it's just a way of like beefing up your eggs.
Cool. I'll make sure to not try that.
Okay, great. So to conclude, no, drinking a protein shake will not make you bulky, but eating too much food will. Protein is essential and you should be definitely having enough of it. So make sure you get your protein in, folks.
It's the building block of fitness.
Yeah, if you want to have a Greek god-like physique like this guy here,
He's gonna bring out the old picture of himself. There it is.
this guy right here, you want that? You want those type of gains?
Guy hasn't looked like that since 1997.
Eat your protein. 2015 actually.
Only
But who's
9 years
counting?
ago.
Who's counting? All right, let's cheers.
With that being said,
Toast.
we have protein in here right now. and it's so tasty.
So tasty. It's not plant-based.
Yum 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 yum. Muscles.